Hi, we're going to go ahead and get started with our training. My name is James Galluzzo, and thank you for joining us today. This training content is going to be on preparing others to study and pass the aPHR or aPHRi certification exams. That's the Associate Professional in Human Resources or the Associate Professional in Human Resources International version, both certifications from the Human Resources Certification Institute, HRCI. So I'm going to be your primary instructor. The material that we're going to be using is based off of this book, the aPHR and aPHR Study Guide that was written by myself and Sandy Reed. And the materials that we're going to be covering today is the instructor companion materials that go along with this guide. So if you are teaching this in a class, this will help you better present that material and make it a little bit easier for your students and hopefully more effective training so that they can pass the certification exams. If you are actually studying to pass this exam, this is not the class for you. There's a separate training that's available for that I conduct that will help you better prepare and pass that goes through the material. But this is how you actually present the instruction material for you for that test. So let me start off by giving you a little bit of orientation if you are not familiar with Teams or you've never been on a Teams call before. This is all a basic platform. At the top of the bar, you'll see a chat box where you can add in questions. You can raise your hand if you have a question such as this and put your hand down. And then you can also just send me the occasional reactions, including the applause. I always like applause. So if you want to do the applause, you can do that too. That'd be great. Finally, if you want to turn off your camera or make sure your microphones are muted, you should all be muted for this call, but if you are not, please mute your mics at this time. Okay, so let me start off by giving you kind of an overview of two of the pieces of material. The first is going to be the instructor material worksheet, which kind of tells you what the slide deck is, and then the PowerPoint slide deck itself. So I'm going to show you both of those things. These are both available from Wiley Publishing through their website on their instructor materials website. So if you go to their website and you download the materials, this is what you're going to see. And again, it's designed to enhance the book material. So it's not designed to be a standalone. You should be using this in conjunction with the book if you're teaching based off of the book. And the book has a lot more detail, has a lot more information, has the student guide, has the questions, has the practice tests. So make sure that you're using that. One of the other features that I particularly like about that book is that each chapter starts with HR gone wrong, because this is supposed to be an entry-level training for people who are just starting out in the HR career field. And we thought when we were writing the book that it would be absolutely the best to give them examples of things that can get you into hot water early in their career so that they can avoid those pitfalls. So that's one of the things that we decided to include in. So make sure you're using that, because that's not included in the instructor materials because it's part of the basic book. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and hopefully you'll be able to see this now. And what you're going to be looking at is the instructor materials that you'll get as part of an overview. And these are the notes that are designed to work through each of the chapters. There are a total of 11 chapters. The first chapter is an overview chapter of the entire book, and it can be used by both types of both sessions. So if you're teaching the aPHR versus the aPHRi, I recommend starting with chapter 1 regardless. And then the other chapters, the remaining chapters, are split in half based off of which exam you're teaching. Each outline has with you the chapter title. It also has the title for each of the slides and their numerical in order. And then there's some content in there. So if you have, for example, you want to include a check on learning or some student exercises, there's some samples and suggestions. Now, you don't have to stick to these. If you don't have a plan, I recommend that you use the ones that are in the guide. But if not, that's okay. If you're tailoring it to your own likeness and how you want to do it, that's fine. So it's designed to be customizable. It's designed to be for your specific class, because no study sessions are going to be exactly the same and no students are going to be exactly the same. So depending upon who your students are, the purpose of why you're doing this training, it may be a class that you're doing for a bunch of high school students or maybe college entry level students that are going into the profession for the first time. It could be some folks who have been in the career field and maybe you're just trying to start off by getting a basic certification, or it may be new people to your team who have never been in HR before, and this is a good way to help them get a good foundational learning in HR. So whatever your purpose is, again, these slides and this content is tailorable for you. So as you can see, each slide has information in there. And in some places, I will actually reference to say, go to the book and use the remaining material in the book. Because the idea is that, again, this is supplemental and it's designed to be an enhancement to the book information if you were teaching it just straight out of the class without having to do a whole lot of extra lesson prep. So this one happens to have about 16 slides in the first chapter. I try and keep the slides to around 16 to 20, maybe 22 slides. And the reason why I do that is because the content is king. And I want you to focus the time on the discussion rather than just reading slides and going through a bunch of information on the slides. So the slides are not very full, and I'll show those to you in just a minute. But there's enough information in there to really have some good in-depth discussion with your students about the different topics. And again, it's designed to be about a 45-minute to an hour session. And then, of course, if you're using this as the companion to the book itself, that gives you all the additional study material, the take home, the homework, and the extra work for the preparation for the exam. So again, about 5 hours for both the aPHR or aPHRi total content time, which you can break down into 5 one-hour lessons or maybe 10, 30-minute lessons, depending upon how you want to attack each class. The other thing now I'm going to show you is the slide decks themselves. And here's a great overview. This is the first chapter, so I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly. This isn't how I would attack this class if I were teaching it, but just to show you what's the slides and kind of the format gives you an understanding of what we're talking about here. So again, chapter 1, and I list an agenda for all of the chapters, so everything will tell you the content of what you're going to be doing and what the reason for the purposes for the class that you're actually teaching, and then that will help you measure whether or not you're actually hitting those targets. For this particular chapter, it's more about the certification exams themselves, what they cover, what it is, who runs it, what HRCI is. So it's a big overview chapter for you. The breakdown of the difference between the aPHR content versus the aPHRi content. As you can see, there's a little bit of difference on each one. And I see that I have a question there, so I'm going to take this question. What is the fundamental difference between, that's a great question, between aPHR and aPHRi? Well, the difference is that the aPHR is fundamentally based in the US and it's based on United States labor laws. The aPHRi is for all other countries where they are practicing human resources, but they may have, like in the European Union or in Asia Pacific region, they have different HR laws, but the principles and practices are still the same. So the content is varied slightly because the aPHR is more focused on US labor law, which is a foundation for a lot of the certifications, and the difference between that HRCI has done to delineate the two certifications. So that's how that breaks down. But I also recommend if you're teaching one or the other, you don't necessarily have to teach just the first 5 chapters for the aPHR and not touch the aPHRi stuff, because there is a lot of overlap and there's a lot of good information and there's good content. So you might want to sprinkle a little bit of that into your course. But again, that's entirely up to you. The one difference between the aPHR and the aPHRi that I would like to point out is that the associated tasks list are only with the aPHRi exam, and that's testable material, but only to that exam. So if you're international and you're teaching this as an international preparation, that make sure you focus on each of these tasks. And I think there's a total of 20 individual tasks. And these are the things that would be expected of a new HR person working in a HR environment overseas, would be expected to know how to do in their first 6 months on the job. I'm sorry, there's a total of 31. And then finally, the eligibility requirements. We go into a little bit in depth in the first part is we talk about what is required to sit the exam. The difference between the aPHR and aPHRi versus all of the other exams that are offered by HRCI is that this one doesn't require work experience. This is a knowledge-based test only. So if you are wanting to sit this exam, one of your students is sitting this exam, they don't have to have been an HR practitioner. It's designed to be early entry. It's designed to be the first step. So it shows that they have knowledge, that they've acquired the knowledge and are ready to practice. It's a really good foundational experience if you're going to be in the HR profession for a long time. And then, of course, we talk about the course of study and how we recommend going through the exam itself. We give some information, and we try and sprinkle out throughout the book as well pieces of information that will be useful if you're preparing for the exam. I'm assuming that some of you are already certified professionals, so you've already taken that exam, which is why you're now passing on that knowledge to your students. So I would encourage them and help them understand, because some people are not the best test takers. Some people get really uncomfortable. And so this gives you an opportunity to kind of explain to them what they're going to be experiencing when they go through sitting one of these exams, regardless of which exam they're sitting. And then what to do on test day, another preparation and kind of some base on the experience that you might have and you can share with them. And then each chapter has a summary to review what they've learned. And then we talk about the exam essentials, which is if you forgot everything else in this, what we just talked about, this is the information that you have to remember for this chapter. So each chapter has exam essentials and they have that information that's all set. So let me stop sharing and go back to the screen here. And again, this is a very quick, very cursory overview of the content of the material. It's not designed to be in depth to teach you the material, but just to show you what's available to help you teach others. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at my email address that you received in the packet. And again, I appreciate you taking the opportunity to purchase the book and teach this to your students. It means a lot to me. I love knowing that there are people out there that are seeking to become HR professionals, and you are helping them achieve that goal. So again, my name is James Galluzzo. This training has been on the aPHR, aPHRi study guide preparation course that you will be teaching and delivering and how to access the content. Hope you have a great day. Thank you for joining me.